All right, welcome in to Cleveland Browns Daily. Merely Bo, the great Z, on a very big day here in Berea. There is a new head coach of your Cleveland Browns. He is a man that Mr. Z and I are quite familiar with. He is Todd Monkin. He will be the 19th head coach in franchise history. This will be his first shot as being an NFL head coach. He's been in the league a long time. We talked about Todd quite a bit yesterday on the show. He's one of the brighter offensive minds you're ever going to be around. A very direct communicator, a big guy in terms of accountability. There's a lot of juice to him. I know as a fan base, you heard from him in the offensive coordinator press conferences in 2019, but as Nathan and I got to know him quite a bit in 2019, that season that he was here, there's a lot to like about Todd. I know you still, every time we played the Ravens, you'd go seek him out. Your reaction, buddy, to Todd Monkin, new Browns head coach?
Well, certainly I'm happy for Todd, who I think has always wanted this opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. Had only coached as a head coach at the collegiate ranks, where he took a winless Southern Mississippi team and in 3 years got them in a bowl, which was a pretty heavy lift, to be honest. He was the OC, obviously, at Georgia when they won 2 national championships. The OC, he's been in the OC in Tampa. He's been the OC for the Baltimore Ravens, been the OC for the Cleveland Browns. But with the Ravens, obviously, he took Lamar Jackson to his 2 best seasons of his career from a statistical standpoint, one of which earned him an MVP, the other which certainly should have earned him an MVP. He is direct. He is sarcastic. I think he will demand accountability. I think he will be very forceful in what his demands are and his expectations are, and I don't think he'll be afraid to raise issues with people who are not meeting that standard. But listen, our big issue was on the offensive side of the football, and he is very, very good at that and has shown the ability, even when they had Tyler Huntley going there for a couple of games last year, had him lighting things up. He's good for the running game, and we've got, obviously, with Quinshon Judkins, he's going to be very good there. He's been very good for quarterbacks, tight ends, multiple on offense, and just regarded as one of the better play callers in the NFL. He's kind of been a guy that has always been the bridesmaid, never a bride. He's been a finalist for a great many head coaching jobs and always been like, he came in second. Well, now he's coming first, and he's got an opportunity, and I think the Browns are hoping, and I think if you're looking for a good scenario outcome with a little bit of, some type of a similar story, trajectory, all of it, you're looking at Bruce Arians, and you're hoping that he can be kind of what Bruce Arians was when he got the opportunity to become a head coach late in his coaching career, and really became, quite good at it. He was the interim coach there, and then was the Arizona head coach, Tampa head coach for about a decade after not really being a coach until he was 30-plus years into his coaching career. Monken is 30-plus years into his coaching career, just shy of his 60th birthday. So excellent offensive mind, good with quarterbacks, good with developing quarterbacks, and I think that's the biggest thing that we've needed, and I think his experience, 37 years as a coach that we talked about, his experience as a play caller in the National Football League, as kind of how the Browns landed on him. And I think it's that experience that gives him an edge, over a guy like a Nate Scheelhaus who would have come in here, and this would have been, only his 3rd year in the National Football League. And I think that's where you're at. We liked him when he was here, loved him. As you mentioned, I've stayed in touch with him. I'm actually very excited for, the coach show with him because we have a very good relationship. We talked for every Browns-Ravens game since he's been there. You could go back and play the tapes when it was announced that he was the offensive coordinator there. Yeah. We were pissed. We're like, anywhere but there. Yep. Because we both have a great deal of affection for him. He spent a lot of time here in the studio. I remember when I think he was a head coach finalist for a couple of jobs last year. Mm-hmm.
And he's been in the mix a lot.
We're like, go get him out of here. Get him out of here. Well, maybe it worked out because now he will be our head coach for the Cleveland Browns. So happy for him. Excited to get to talk to him when he comes in here, which I think will be either later this week or early next week. And we'll see what we can do.
We have your statement here from Mr. and Mrs. Haslam. Quote, "We are very excited to name Todd Monkin as the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Todd is highly intelligent. His experienced, innovative offensive mindset has been at the forefront of constructing productive and successful offenses at the NFL and collegiate level over the last 20 years. He is an outstanding leader, has a clear vision to lead our team as a strong communicator who values trust with his players, but also accountability and preparation. In our committee's exhaustive reference work on Todd, his commitment to player development was evident. His tough and straightforward coaching is respected by the players and the coaches he's worked with, putting our team in a position to succeed while developing our players to maximize their talent. We welcome Todd, Terry, and the rest of the Monken family back to the Browns and look forward to him establishing the winning culture that will lead our team to success our fans so deserve." So
Yeah, I mean, look at the Ravens' offense, and obviously, look, there's a lot of talent there. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, all of it. The Browns, though, would say, okay, obviously we don't have Lamar Jackson, but we've got Quinshon Judkins, we've got a Jerry Jeudy. We've got more investment coming, I think, at the wide receiver position. We've got Harold Fannin, but first in rushing yards over the last 3 years, second in scrimmage yards, third in points, third in rushing touchdowns. Derrick Henry, with Todd Monkin calling the plays there, led all players in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns and rushes of 10 or more yards. So I think if you're Quinshon Judkins, you like this hire. We got to get the offense right. Now we're going to talk about how perhaps there are now new issues on the defensive side of the ball, but for now we'll talk Todd. And this is about, I think, getting somebody who is a veteran, getting somebody who's got experience, and getting somebody who has been productive, not only just at the NFL level as a play caller, but in our conference and in our division, more importantly, as an NFL play caller. You go back to the season in 2019, that's the last time the Browns had 2,000-yard receivers on a team, Jarvis and Odell. You had Nick Chubb, I think, ran for over 1,400 yards. We were productive on offense. It did not necessarily go well that season overall, and I'm sure that's something that he will be asked about, but now he is the head coach, and we'll see how he, the last year that he was actually a head coach in 2015 at Southern Miss, he was the Conference USA Coach of the Year. And then he leaves from there to go be the Bucs OC, and then he's been basically in the NFL ever since, other than the 3 years at Georgia where they won 2 national championships when he was paired with Kirby Smart.
When I think in terms of, like, if you're curious, like, okay, what does this look like offensively? Like, Kevin's offense for the early part prior to the acquisition of Deshaun Watson was a wide zone offense, and that is what we were built it on. Heavy run game. All of the plays look similar, one in the first and the second, with different results on it. I think what's really cool about Todd is if you look at his Georgia teams with Stetson Bennett as the quarterback, and they had stud running backs and stud receivers, but that was a different offense than the offense he ran in Baltimore. He built that offense around Lamar and elevated Lamar, and along with Lamar, obviously he deserves a lot of credit for that too, but the two of them really worked incredibly well together those first 2 years and produced the 2 most productive seasons Lamar Jackson as a quarterback in the National Football League. So I think what you see with Todd is he's malleable. He is somebody that can work with what your talent is. He's not someone necessarily who is, this is what we're going to run and this is what it's going to look like. Obviously, he has his thoughts on all of that. But my hunch is that he will build an offense based around the skill sets that we have and where we're at our best. I don't think you're going to be around a square peg round hole situation with him. My hunch is that he will build an offense around what he does best. But one thing I know about his offenses, whether it was in Baltimore or whether it was with Georgia, certainly just that 1 year here in 2019, one thing they're going to be physical. And they're going to punch you in the mouth. And he's not afraid for quarterbacks to make plays down the field. I mean, that's something he did at Stetson Bennett. It's a big-time plays, throwing the ball down the field at Georgia when they won those national titles, and that happened this last couple of seasons in Baltimore as well. I also think one other thing, I know a lot sometimes is being made about, some of the comments he made in regard to Lamar in terms of, I should have been better there, and some people are viewing that as a negative. I just view that as accountability. It's rare in today's world that we take accountability for how things went wrong. And that was Todd said this. And so I think I view that as an attribute. Like this is something that I wish that would have worked out better. It didn't. And you've seen his comments on it by now. It's been out for over a month, a couple of weeks at least. So when I think of this, I see a grown man. I see a guy who's been a professional coach in college and the NFL for a very long time. I see a straight shooter. I see a guy who's all about accountability. Yep. You guys, as from a fan perspective, he is so quick-witted. He is so quick, and is a really entertaining guy to listen to. And so I appreciate, and I'm looking forward to all of those things. And to me, I'll be honest with you, a couple weeks ago, I didn't think this was going to be the case, that we would be having this. But I think if you think of people who, since 2019, who we have spoken most fondly about, he's got to be at the very short list of the people.
Oh, yeah. And there's, like I said, you could go with the day that he went to the Ravens. You could go get, I'm sure that Browns Daily were lamenting it. When he got job interviews, we're like, get him out of Baltimore. I used to say that to him, funny, all the time. Can't wait for you to get out of Baltimore. Now, I didn't realize it was going to be to get out of Baltimore to come be with us and now the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So happy for Todd that he gets this opportunity, and away we go. I think that as you went through this process, I think a lot of us thought it was going to be a younger head coach paired with Jim Schwartz, and now it is not a younger head coach. It is a similar-aged head coach, and it appears that Jim Schwartz still under contract. I think there is certainly a world in which I know the Browns certainly are. There's a world in which they would welcome him with open arms to be the defensive coordinator of this football team. The reports are that he was not happy, did not get the job, and he said that he's gone and he's done, and we'll see how that ultimately plays out. You've got, I think, great opportunities in-house to, if you need to get somebody off of that staff. You got a great defensive staff, fortunately, but obviously, look, Jim Schwartz has done a tremendous job as a defensive coordinator here, and you'd obviously like to see that continue.
Yeah, so if you're just, not everybody lives in the social media world, but a report, I want to say it was from Tom Pelissaro earlier today, was maybe the first with this, that Jim was displeased by being passed over as the head coach and left the building, and the idea was that I'm not coming back, was the reporting from Tom Pelissaro. We'll see where all of that shakes out. These are, and whether it's NFL head coaching or anything you do in life, when you make something a decision this big for any organization that you're in, there's a great deal of time that is put into it. When you're in a position to hire people and you have various finalists that are in it, it's like dating 3 people at once, or sometimes 4.
Yep.
And then you're going to marry one.
Yep.
And the other 3, in this instance, if there were 3 finalists, the other 3 are probably going to be pretty sore about it.
Yes.
And there's going to be some bitterness. And I'm not a fortune teller. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I have no clue, or what's going to happen the following day after that in terms of with Jim Schwartz. But I could certainly understand how this would be an emotional day for him. And so we'll see where all of this shakes out, because obviously he wanted this job very badly.
Yeah, and certainly you can understand that. He wants another shot to sit in that chair. He said, of course, why wouldn't I want to do that? And he has been, as I said, an elite defensive coordinator, and we certainly hope that can continue here with the Cleveland Browns. We'll just have to see how it ultimately all plays out. But Todd Monkin is the next head coach of your Cleveland Browns, the 19th head coach in franchise history, and hopefully he can get this thing going in the right direction.
I think when you're Todd and you've been around as long as he has, I think you probably have it in your head, if I ever get a shot, this is what I'm going to do. So if you juxtapose that with Nate Scheelhaus, who was another one of the finalists, and I talked about this yesterday on the show in regard to Scheelhaus. First of all, I'm old, and this makes me feel old, in that I covered 3 of his college games, and the fact that he's old enough now to be head coach available in the National Football League. But this is a guy who coordinated offenses for 1 year at Iowa State and is obviously very well thought of in the National Football League, especially in Los Angeles, and a very bright up-and-coming guy. And so, but also, has he thought about this for 20 years in terms of what his staff would look like? Because it's not just hire a coach. It's what's my staff? What's my process? What's my schedule look like? How do I want to build a team? What positions do I want to attack in free agency, draft? What's important to me? All of those things are things that Todd Monkin has thought about for a very long time, and has probably had a plan in place and has probably been very organized on that plan.
Yes. And I think he's been waiting for this moment for a great period of time. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you're exactly right, and we'll see how that ultimately plays out. I think we'll get, offensive announcements and see. But I think what people who wanted, and I think there were a great segment of people who, listen, we all know Kevin Stefanski was an excellent coach, 2-time coach of the year, and obviously snatched up very quickly down in Atlanta, and wish him success, and we loved him, and I loved getting to know him, become friends with him, and got us to the playoffs, got us a playoff win, all of that. I think there was, at the end of this, there were a lot of calls for there to be a culture change and to maybe be a little bit more of a tough-minded football team. That you will be that with Todd Monkin. I think he will demand that. I just think that's his personality.
Oh yeah. He's my hunch is he'll be very similar to Jim in terms of the press conferences, his communication with the team. You're not going to get a whole lot of. I think you'll know exactly where you stand with him. Yeah. You might not always like it, but I think you'll know. He doesn't really have a filter in that sense. No. You ask a direct question, you're going to get a direct answer.
Listen, and this guy ran the Ravens offense for the last 3 years when every year they were a perennial Super Bowl contender. Even this year going into it, they were the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And he's the one who was running that offense. He's obviously, I think, you imagine he's going to have learned some things from John Harbaugh, who we spent the 3 years with as his right-hand man and the runner of the offense for that organization, wearing for the Baltimore Ravens. So he understands this division. He understands everything that he needs to do. And when you look at, what Todd's going to bring, I think it is offense, quarterback, and then culture and accountability. And I think that's ultimately what ended up getting him this job. And so now we go. Now there's not going to be any proof until we see, how things look, and really the reality is until the regular season, right? But I wonder if we'll get a sense of what, he has prioritized when we go into this draft, how he works with Andrew Berry in terms of getting the people and the pieces that he wants. I'll tell you a guy that I've been high on, and you guys know this, Isaiah Bond feels like somebody that should do very well in a Todd Monkin offense. So that kind of could end up being a real steal. Average, I think, 19 yards a catch last year to lead our football team. Yeah, and I think Quinshon Judkins is excellent news for him and Dylan Sampson out of the backfield as well. But, we've got now some new questions that weren't questions before. It's like a day that you get an answer, you get a new question.
Yep.
And hopefully that gets resolved. But in the event that it doesn't, then we'll have to see how that all plays out on the defensive side of the football. And we know that probably need a new special teams coordinator as well, as the Rams and Steelers have both requested to speak to Bubba, and it sounds like that's one of the directions he'll be going.
Yeah, I mean, if you have waited this long for this shot, like Todd has, like you're going to do it your way.
Yeah, and you have people in mind that you.
He knows he's got guys that he's had on a short list. I mean, anybody who's does that profession would have that. 2023-2024 Ravens points per game, 28.4, 30.5 in 2024. Obviously a ton of talents on that Ravens team. One of those seasons Lamar won the MVP. Probably should have won it both if you look at what he did statistically in those years. This year Lamar was hurt, and it unraveled for them a certain extent. But at the same time, some of the more dynamic offenses in the league, 2 out of the 3 years that he was in Baltimore. And honestly, what he did at Georgia, elevating – at that time, that was before the full NIL free transfer stuff, and so there were 4 or 5 teams that had the most talent in the sport.
Yep.
Georgia certainly had among the most talent in the sport, but they went from a team that honestly offensively was pretty pessimistic in approach to one that was pretty ultra-aggressive. And in the national semifinal against Ohio State, was one of those things where they kept up from a scoring standpoint. The two defenses were washed, and it was who's going to have the ball last, and they let it drive and got a field goal and ended up winning a national title that year. So, the other thing that's cool about this is just, we know him a little bit. And
yes,
that's
it's
really
not a stranger
cool.
to us. It's not a stranger to this studio. It is not a stranger to this organization. So I think that is good. I will say this. I'm speaking for me. And I realize that obviously Kevin was an offensive coach, and for a while we had things rolling. But Todd Monkin has had insanely productive offenses. Now, again, you've got to have the horses to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I think the quarterback position, that is a huge question mark. Now, we do know from reports that the Ravens were interested in drafting Shedeur Sanders, and he told them no, if those reports are to be believed. So you'd imagine that Todd Monkin has done some work on him. We still have Deshaun here. We got Dylan Gabriel here, and we've got obviously a free agent crop or potential trade targets. And maybe there's somebody that Todd Monkin really wants to bring in here to be his quarterback. So we'll see. It is as open there as it is. I don't think we're going into this with somebody being anointed in his opening presser. I think we are far from that. But I've always thought if you can score, you've got a chance. And Todd Monkin is really here because our offense was not up to the level it needed to be in the NFL. And that's not only from a talent standpoint and from a production standpoint. And where you want to play, whose feet you want to lay the blame at for that, doesn't matter at this point. That ship sailed. But what I think we will see is Monkin getting this offense going. And I think that you will see an effort. And weapons, tackle, weapons, guard. Okay, on the offensive line as well. But, we got to get some guys, some dudes at the wide receiver position. And I just think you look at the teams that are in the Super Bowl, it's not like they have these monster offensive lines. They're playing well, but it's not like it was huge investments. But I can assure you that without Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Seattle Seahawks are not in the Super Bowl.
No.
Not even close.
10
not
for 153? No,
they're not in the Super Bowl.
You got to have dudes.
You got to have some dudes. You have to have
people that people fear,
yes.
and that's
or you
something.
Play the worst stretch of quarterbacks that you could play in a playoff run, and
you're talking about
bad weather, and get very lucky, and you're there. Now we'll see how that.
See what happens in the big bowl.
In the big game for him, but everybody's the complaints about this football team have been about the offense. This is a hire that they believe addresses the offense with someone who has proven to be successful as an offensive coordinator in the National Football League. And I think it's really that simple. I think when you look at Shieldhouse, and I think he's got a chance to be a star, and my guess is he will get a job in the next cycle somewhere. And I know they were very impressed with him, very, very impressed with him. He's never called plays in the NFL. He does not have a track record, and I think that this organization felt at this time to have somebody with that track record to go in there and lead this group of men, that was important. Todd's wanted it. He gets the shot now, and I think we'll see how it plays out. But I'm excited for him, and like I said, from a Browns Daily standpoint, I think this is good. This is a guy that knows us, is very comfortable with both of us, and I think maybe we'll be able to get him in here a little more than perhaps we have been able to get others in the past.
Those are your hot topics today, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. There's a lot to get done here. We'll get into some of the things that need to get done now right away, now that you have a head coach. That head coach's name is Todd Monkin. We know him very well. He is the 19th head coach in the history of the franchise, and he is your new head coach of your Cleveland Browns. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Add more fun to your fandom of the Bally Bet Sportsbook app. Download today, get 50 back in bonus bets. You place your first wager of 10 or more. Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Your new Browns head coach is Todd Monkin. Gibbe wants to know, outside of the obvious, what are your top 5 things to accomplish before the Browns head to training camp? Well, I mean, I think the number one thing you have to figure out is what you're doing at quarterback. I mean, that's every team in the NFL, only forever, is what is the plan at quarterback? Obviously, that'll be among the first 5 questions in the press conference. Is that official? Do we know when that is? Do we know when the presser is, Gibbe? Is that
nothing official?
Nothing official.
They are finalizing all the details.
Okay,
so we should have something later today or tomorrow, I would think.
So today's Wednesday, a first Friday, if you will. Just guess would be sometime early next week, but who knows? One of the first 5 is going to be, what's your plan at quarterback? Who's your starter?
Yes.
I mean, that's so. Though that had to be something that was asked a lot in the interview process of all of the applicants. What do you think of this room? What do you think of these players? And Todd will have a plan for that. But that is, to me, the first thing that has to get sorted out. If it's before training camp, that's job 1 through 12.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just writing down it's a lot of quarterback plan, wide receiver plan, offensive line plan, and then I'm going to put the culture plan, and then what I'm going to call the toughness AFC North plan. What's camp going to look like? What are practices going to look like? How do we get this football team physically ready to be a bully in this division?
We need to elaborate on all 5 of those things, because the quarterback plan is a complicated one. You have 3 guys on this roster. You obviously have 2 first-round draft picks. There are quarterbacks who are available in free agency or via trade. Is that something that you're interested in doing? Is there somebody that Todd Monkin has worked with before? Look at that guy running a business. Look at him.
Smooth.
Such a smooth operator.
Smooth.
So, I mean, that's – like I said, to me, that's 1 through 10.
Yes,
then
I'll
get to the rest of it. But I'm very fascinated to know. I think one thing that's cool, I said this in the first hour, is Todd has done it with different types of quarterbacks. Stetson Bennett was a guy who would run, but it wasn't primary. And then he took a guy like Lamar and turned him into a very proficient passer, and his best seasons as a pro.
Listen, there's no doubt he is a good offensive coach and that he has had success in the National Football League. I mean, that is without question. Now he's getting an opportunity to do something that he's never done before, which is to lead a football team as the head coach at the National Football League level. I have no doubt that he's been he's successful. Now you've got to get him the quarterback, and now he's had talented quarterbacks that he has worked with in places. But when you talk about improvement, success, all of those things, you look at Lamar Jackson with him and the quality of the seasons that they had together and the improvements in Lamar as a passer. Now, this year he was banged up. We all know that, and this year things didn't go as well, which is why Todd Monkin is here. Now he's gotten opportunities for other jobs as we mentioned, has been kind of a finalist, but never the guy. Well, now he's here. And had he not come here, had we not made him the head coach, he would be the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. Like John Harbaugh thinks that much of him. We know how much he thinks of him because basically he was told to get rid of him and said no, and they said, well, then I guess you're all gone. And so that's a kind of loyalty that Todd Monkin certainly got from John Harbaugh there in his time with the Baltimore Ravens. But going back to Lamar, and what I was saying is before Todd Monkin was there, Lamar Jackson the season before that, 62% completions. He had a quarterback rating of 91, and with him, it goes career high 67.2, 24 touchdowns, 7 picks, career high in air yards per attempt, career high in yards per attempt, and a quarterback rating of 102.7. And then last year, by the way, that's his MVP season. He was a first-team All-Pro back-to-back seasons and was top 2 in the MVP voting back-to-back seasons. Now, he should have won the MVP the following season, 67%, career high 4,172 passing touchdowns, career high 41 passing touchdowns, only 4 picks, career high 8.8 yards per attempt, career high 10 air yards per attempt, career high 13.2 yards per completion, and a rating of 120. There is no doubt that Lamar Jackson accomplished things as a passer with Todd Monkin that he had not been able to accomplish previously. And I mentioned Bruce Arians earlier. Bruce Arians knows ball. He kept Todd Monkin on that staff in Tampa and had him as the OC there, which were some very prolific offenses.
From the second thing I think you wrote there was weapons, which is something.
And the receiver plan to me. I'm even going to get even more specific. Receiver. What is the plan at wide receiver?
Yeah, and we haven't really even dipped our toe in this at all yet because we've been in coaching search mode for 2 weeks, and so we haven't even talked about free agents. We've talked a little bit about the draft, not a ton. Certainly everybody around here is very familiar with Carnell Tate, and I would imagine he'd be in consideration in the top 10. The Lemon kid from USC is very, very good as well. So who knows what type of player he's looking for at receiver, what type of weapon he's looking for there.
Yep.
And are there guys that he's worked with at Georgia or in Baltimore, or guys he's liked through the years that he thinks, boy, that would work perfectly with what I want to do offensively? I think that's it. And then the other one, and this is something, it's not as glamorous as quarterback at receiver, but what is the offensive line plan? I mean, there are a ton of guys that have to be – there's a ton of positions there that have to be addressed.
Yes. You need a lot of help on the offensive line. You need a lot of help, obviously, at wide receiver, and I think that's what we're saying. That's why – it is likely to me that, you think about your first 3 picks that you're probably going to get, a receiver and 2 offensive linemen, maybe even 2 receivers and offensive linemen. You can address those things in free agency as well, but I think, especially on the line, but I think the path for the wide receiver is certainly, look at it, he's out. The path for the wide receiver, I think, in the draft, and to me, it starts at pick number 6. Again, me, Nathan Zagura. There's no doubt in my mind if I'm taking a wide receiver at number 6. Somebody asked me, well, does that mean you don't like any tackles? Don't care.
Don't care, man.
I need weapons. I need people that defenses fear, or people that help us score the football.
Yeah.
And you got to get the line. We know the greatest tackle in the history of football.
Yeah, he's going to join us in 30 minutes.
And unfortunately for him, he did not have the requisite weapons or quarterback around him to have the success that he deserved. Those are the most important things to me. Then you get to the offensive line, which as long as you can get passable, if you have weapons and you got a quarterback that can operate, you're going to be just fine.
Well, and the other part to that is, as Todd builds out this staff, who are guys who are his connective tissue at those position groups? Who's his offensive coordinator? Who is his offensive line coach? Who's coaching receivers? Who's coaching the running backs? Like, when you, as I mentioned earlier, like when you're Todd's age and you've waited this long for a job like this, you have a list that you carry with you. Like, if I ever get a job, these are the 5 guys I'm going to call for this in order. These are the 5 guys I'm going to call for this in order. So I don't know who that is for him. We don't know what that is, but who are those guys? And one thing that we saw, and we saw it directly, when you have somebody like Bill Callahan coaching your offensive line, he is able to do things with offensive line play that others struggle with sometimes. So but he's not the only one who can do that. Yeah. So who is that to me? To buttress your point on receiver at 6, and honestly, weapon, tackle, whatever, like, to me, a great offensive line coach can cover up some of the offensive line deficiencies in a big way.
100%. Yeah, and we've seen that certainly around the league. We've seen that. And I think it's easier to get, with a good offensive line coach and free agency to buttress that room quickly. You can do that. No doubt.
What did you have it for?
4 was the culture plan. What is the message? Who are we going to be in terms of this operation? What are the demands of the players? What is the standard that is going to be set? And what are you going to hold these players to as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns? What is the direction and the culture that you are setting? And I think that's very important, because I think that is where you have an opportunity to make real change.
Accountability will be with a capital A for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just know that about his personality. So he is going to be, like I said, I mean, you ask him a direct question, you're going to get a direct answer. I don't think he is somebody that's vague in communication at all. He is very direct. And I think from an accountability standpoint, everyone will be held accountable. I don't see any scenario where that's not something that is really one of the hallmarks of what he is and what he's going to do here. So you guys might not always like it, but I think you're going to know where you stand with Todd Monkin, and I think accountability is a pretty easy one. I think the next thing is going to be very interesting because, what are the Todd Monkin Cleveland Browns? What is that identity?
What is that identity? Who are we?
Yeah.
Who are we? And I think we have an opportunity to set that and have it be different than what we have been before.
Yeah, and the other thing here is, as ownership coined it this summer, a transition phase from a roster standpoint. What are we building towards? And Todd will have all of this whenever that press conference is. He'll have answers for all of this, and I'm curious. What do you think that the Cleveland Browns can be in 2026?
Yep.
Right. What are they going to be? What is it in 2027? You have major roster decisions that are going to get made in the next. Ownership. Mr. Haslam said the next 120 days. We're almost 30 days into it. Up until the draft, through the draft, what this roster is going to be reshaped in a very, very big way, and Todd Monkin is going to have a major say in what that looks like.
I believe he will, and I believe he will have to. I think that when you get this job at this point in your coaching career, you'll be 60, by the time I think he gets in here in a week. I think you've got to be assertive and you've got to be aggressive in what your vision of this is. Not to say that it's not collaborative. Of course it's collaborative, but I think you've got to be assertive and say, okay, this is my shot. This is probably his shot. This is his shot to be a head coach. And I would say you've got to go and you've got to do it your way. And you've got to not only do you understand the standard, that the personnel department understands the standard, and if guys are not meeting that, they've got to be gone. And if you got to be vocal about who you want brought in here, I say do it.
Oh, I don't think. We know there's no way he won't do that.
I agreed.
Yeah, I think he's going to have very specific things. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of with Todd. I don't think there will be a whole lot of, well, let me think about that. I think he knows. I think he knows what he wants his culture to be. I think he knows what he wants the team makeup to be. I think he knows what he wants the identity to be. My hunch is he knows what he needs on this roster offensively. I'm sure he presented that as part of the interview process in terms of these are the things we need to be competitive quickly in the AFC North again and to be able to punch our weight in this division.
And he knows that.
He knows it. He's been in the division. He's been in the division with us, and he's been in the division the last 3 years. So he knows what it takes to beat the Baltimore Ravens because he's been with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
He knows what it takes to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. He understands it. He knows those rosters. So in that standpoint, he's not even to learn anything.
Correct.
He probably has those answers at the ready, and I'm guessing that's part of the reason he was so impressive in the process to our search committee from the standpoint of, this guy was probably pretty direct on his plan.
Yes, and I think it was obviously something that resonated, and that's why he's the head coach of your Cleveland Browns. And so now how we get that rolling is what is going to be very interesting, and I think that culture plan, I think that is a big one. And I think tied into that's what I put 5. It's just kind of the toughness of the AFC North. What do practices look like? Do we take a different approach to the physicality and the preparation for the season? Were there things he saw with John Harbaugh that were different than the way that we operated here? Because the Ravens are always a tough football team.
He just spent his last 6 seasons coaching the Georgia Bulldogs and the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
And those are two of the most, in their varying divisions, two of the most punch-you-in-the-mouth, physical, know exactly who they are operations you're going to find.
Yep.
In fact, if you did a survey of college football teams that are the most physical, most know exactly what they are, Georgia would be in that conversation. If you had the exact same poll around the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens would be in that situation. And the other thing with him, and you mentioned the Arians part, it's funny, I hadn't thought about the Arians part of that. I'd forgotten that he
And Arians
stayed.
was in Indy with Andrew Berry at that time.
Yeah, and I had forgotten. Bruce had a very direct approach and was very absolute in his plan down in Tampa Bay. So you got that. Then you've got the time that he spent at Georgia with Kirby Smart, who's one of the more effective leaders, and of course John Harbaugh. I don't know. It's going to be a very fun press conference to see how he answers these questions, and he's going to get hit with all of them. And my guess is he'll have very direct answers for all of it. We will circle back on all of this coming up at the top of the hour. Coming up next, we'll dip our toe in a little bit of chaos in regard to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For the ultimate Browns gear, head to the Browns Pro Shop, a Fanatics experience right next to Huntington Bank Field. Jerseys, hats, hoodies, collectibles, exclusive merch you will not find anywhere else. Shop in the store, online at shop.clevelandbrowns.com. The Pro Shop, official merch for your true Browns fans. News of the day, of course, Todd Monkin, your new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. The Hoff's going to join us here in about 15 minutes, and we will break all of that down with him. Mr. Siciliano will join us, where I'm guessing his temperature is considerably warmer than it is here, somewhere in Southern California, so he will join us coming up at 4:30, and much more on that in the second hour of the program. The big news in the NFL today, and this happened last night, was the news that Bill Belichick would not be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He fell short of the 40 of 50 votes needed for induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame during his first year of eligibility. Four sources with, four's pretty good, first-hand knowledge of the outcome. There's been a lot made of this today in terms of how it could have happened. The Bill Polian part of it is very interesting in terms of kind of the double talk from him. There was a pro football voter by the name of Mike Sando. I don't know if you saw this.
I did see that, but it's like, if that's how it happened, it's even more annoying to me.
So he is a 28th season covering the league. He works at The Athletic, a Hall of Fame selector, Pro Football Writers Board.
He's been on this show before.
Yeah. We had Mike on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that the name was familiar to me, but I couldn't remember exactly where that stand. He gave a very detailed breakdown on kind of how all of this happened. And I do think it's important just to understand the possibility of it.
All right.
And he does explain the original. And basically these processes all changed. And so Hall of Fame voters were given zero information about votes from Belichick, Kraft, Anderson, Craig, or Greenwood. As of February, 5 award shows get closer. The Hall of Fame itself informs the candidates if they're going to be part of the class. That's how they tape those cool knockout interviews. But once those candidates know, their families and friends find out. He talked about the two different processes, about how coaches are on a 1-year process and players are on a 5-year process in terms of after they're done at the league. And then the other thing he hypothesized, was it possible that some voters gave their votes to, let's say, an L.C. Greenwood, thinking he might never be back in this spot, thinking the Belichick's votes were already there. If that's the case, your process is broken, and that's what he said at the end of the summation was, look, if this is what happened, then they're going to redo how to do this thing.
All right, let's just start with this. If Bill Belichick is not a first-ballot Hall of Famer, it makes the Hall of Fame seem, a little bit farcical.
Makes the Hall of Fame electors farcical.
Electors farcical,
yeah,
yes.
Maybe not the Hall, but yes, the electors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that they need to get a bunch of people who are currently electors out and get some new blood in there as well. That's one. Number two, if there is personal animus that is preventing somebody from getting in, that's absurd. You are a sacred gatekeeper, and it should be based on the merits. And he is probably, like if you were doing the Mount Rushmore of the greatest coaches ever, he's probably George Washington. Vince Lombardi is on there. Paul Brown, you could make case you go all the way back. And then what is it, maybe Bill Walsh?
Or Hallis.
That's it, though. But Bill Belichick
he's on it.
Without any question. So that's a first
he's
ballot.
on it.
That's an automatic. Yep. Like I would imagine if you're playing that great game we always talk about for that special level of the Hall, he's one of the 2 head coaches involved in that game. Mm-hmm. So it's a joke. And we have our consternation, our curiosity, our bewilderment at some of the things that have come out of Bill Polian's mouth over the last decade is very well documented on this program.
Yeah.
This is outrageous. He's butthurt. I'm sure he's the one who led this. He goes and is like, no, I didn't do that. I voted for him then. Well, actually, I don't.
Actually,
I'm not sure what I voted. You're not sure what you voted on Bill Belichick? Are you kidding me right now? Those should all be public. Everybody who voted against them should be out. They're no longer voters. You're gone. Sorry. That's the bar. Because if you didn't vote for him, and I don't care if you were – listen, there's an old proverb where they talk about, a city was going to have a big thing where everybody brought everybody brought a gallon of wine, okay? And they were going to put it in a big thing and everybody's going to have a party. Well, you had all those people who were saying, hey, you know what? In my barrel of wine, I'm going to put 90% water, 2% and 10% wine. Nobody's going to notice because everybody else is bringing wine. Guess what? You know what they ended up with? 90% water. Because people thought, oh, well, somebody else is going to do the right thing. You cannot do that. If you have that responsibility, he should have been 50 out of 50, the end. We'll deal with whatever else there is, but Bill Belichick is the first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer, and anybody who didn't vote for him should be gone. It should be disclosed. You're gone. And that's how we'll get at least 11 new voters in there that should hopefully be able to make this even better than it was in the past.
Yeah, you need to have complete accountability for your ballot. So
Absolutely.
they all should be made public in terms
Yep.
of who you voted for and who you didn't. It's too big of a decision not to. It is. I remember Bob Kravitz, who presented Peyton Manning. He just stood up and said it's Peyton Manning. And our buddy Armando Salguero was the presenter for Bill Belichick, which I thought was interesting because obviously he's down in South Florida, and I don't know if he ever covered Bill other than ESPN National. And obviously been national at Outkick for a while, but like I was surprised it was
AFC
him.
East.
Yeah, I was surprised it was him. I would have thought it would have been somebody from Boston who did it, but it was Armando who did it, who's awesome. And he kind of outlined his process on that. But really all you have to say is it's Bill Belichick, and then you sit down.
8 Super Bowls.
That's it. It's Bill Belichick. Sit down.
That's it.
On to the next.
I mean, it doesn't even.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's I hate because I love the folks who run the hall, and I love the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think it's awesome. I think if you're in this area and you have not been down there, go and take your kids. Your kids are going to have a ball, especially if you have little kids, young kids who love ball and love football. It's so interactive. It's so cool. I hate that the hall has this now is going to be over not only this class, it's going to be over next year at the induction process, enshrinement. I hate that for the hall because it shouldn't be. But this is a massive blank up. It's really we did this wrong. Like, what happened here? And I think a lot of these Hall of Fames have real problems. I think for the most part, the NFL Hall of the Pro Football Hall of Fame has done pretty good. I hate, for example, the Baseball Hall of Fame arbitrarily being gatekeepers of who did or who didn't do bad things. That drives me absolutely nuts. No. The College Football Hall of Fame, they have a backlog of guys they have to get in, and they're in a bit of a tough spot because it's a relatively new hall. I don't pay enough attention to the hockey one. The basketball one, I think they let too many people in. The football one usually gets it right, but this is an instance where your processes and whatever it may be, if you have access to X or Twitter or whatever, and go read Mike Sando, because he gives a pretty good breakdown of possibly how it happened. I actually found the original tweet now. I'll read it really quickly here. Here were the potential ways Belichick may have gotten fewer than 40, according to Mike, and I think it's a really educated way. It doesn't make it right, but I think it's a very educated way of how it can happen. Let's say 4 or 5 voters who were strong advocates for a specific senior player figured Belichick was going to make it regardless, so they funneled votes to competing candidates in hopes of boosting them over the 40-vote threshold. Let's say a few voters prior to our senior players on thinking that Belichick will be back in the room next year, while the players on the ballot this year might disappear into the senior pod forever. Let's say a few voters found Spygate cheating disqualifying. Let's say a few voters protested new rules making coaches eligible 1 year after retiring instead of 5. My problem with all of those is those are all subjective issues.
Here's the other thing.
And this shouldn't have been a subjective process. Some of these guys are. The other thing I would say on the veterans guys who get in, if you're not in there when you're eligible, the idea that we're going to circle back and then bring guys in, I don't like that either. It's the Hall of Fame, man.
It's not the Hall of Pretty Good.
No.
Agreed. And that's why we always talk about there needs to be a separate level and you can change all the time, where the ultimate game, and these are the guys that would be in the ultimate game of football. You have 2 teams, easy to do.
I also think coaches shouldn't be on the same one they should be on the same one as players, not the same one as owners and contributors and vets. To me, they should be on the same timeline as the players are.
I don't even care about the timeline. He just should
be in. Same
in.
Consideration, though.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is you should never limit the amount of guys who can get in.
No.
If there are 10 guys who are worthy this year, take 10.
Take 10.
If there are only one, if there's one, then just do one. Like, there's no reason you got to get to a number. Like, who's worthy of this?
Yes.
He's worthy.
He should be when you walk into the coach's wing, if there is such a thing, which I'm just saying. He should be like, I said, he's either the George Washington on the Mount Rushmore or he's number 2. But
I mean, he's on that list.
What are we talking about?
He's on that list. There's 5-6 guys that would be on that list, and he's one of them.
People, you can't protest that he's on a 1-year track that has nothing to do with him, so withhold a vote for him. That's dumb. And I'm with it. Oh, well, I'm worried this guy's going to be off the ballot. Listen, if it's come down to that, he probably shouldn't be a Hall of Famer.
He's probably not a Hall of Famer, man.
And that's okay. You could have been a really good player and had a great career and have the respect of a great many people, but you don't have to be a Hall of Famer. It's not a right to be a Hall of Famer. You have to be, I think, people who are Hall of Famers, the voters have to be compelled to make them a Hall of Famer. Like, you must be a Hall of Famer or else this is a farce.
Do you think... I also wonder, one thing we haven't talked about yet is I wonder if Kraft had a part in this. Because Kraft's one of those guys. I wonder if he was like, I'm not going in with him.
He came out with a statement that strongly said, like, we're not here and with everything we've done without Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I saw that Armando shared like the comments from Brady that he shared.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Hall of Famers are going. Jimmy Johnson went.
Jimmy
Nuts.
Johnson's
Nuts.
boycotting. He was on McAfee today. He's like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
This is
and
ridiculous.
this isn't. I'm not. I don't even know if LC Greenwood's still. I don't know what's going on with him. But like the idea that everybody off the steel curtain has to get in.
It's so annoying.
Like 20 guys on the 70s
so
Steelers, they're all Hall of Famers. Their
No.
whole team are Hall of Famers. Come on.
If you didn't even think they were Hall of Famers at the time, they're not Hall of Famers now.
No.
That's not hard to me. That's a pretty easy one.
Is it Ken Anderson? Is he the other one?
Guy was a 2-time first-team All-Pro, 6 Pro Bowls. Okay. Never Defensive Player of the Year. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is one that was botched, and I hate that some of this is going to fall at the feet of the Hall, and it really should fall at the feet of the electors. And I hope that the folks who didn't have him on a ballot, to me, they need to come forward and defend their vote. All of them.
Yeah. Ken Anderson's a one-time All-Pro. Yes, he won the MVP
the
in
MVP.
1981.
He's not much different than Sipe, honestly.
That's it.
Ken Anderson's not much different than Sipe. Pretty similar. All right. The Hoff will join us on Todd Monkin coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet. Official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, second hour, Cleveland Browns Daily. This from Adam Schefter 2 minutes ago. Another hire in Cleveland. Head coach Todd Monkin is bringing former Ravens offensive line coach George Warhop with him to the Browns to coach the same position per sources. That is from Shefty. And so with that in mind, we head out on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it Twisted Cleveland. He is the gold jacket himself. He is the Hoff. He is the king of meats and about a million other things.
Beef jerky
Cold
subscriptions.
Plunges, beef jerky subscriptions, everything you'd ever want. We've got a coach. We got an offensive line coach, Hoff. Go.
Let's go, baby. I'm fired up. I know that a lot of people in the building, and you guys included, know Todd Monkin from when he was the offensive coordinator with the Browns in 2019, and nothing but amazing things to say about the man, from his leadership to his intelligence, his emotional intelligence, ability to connect with players, experienced, which I'm really excited about because I was a little bit nervous about hiring a really young guy. But I think really with this hire, you get the best of both worlds because you get a guy that you know very well because he's been in the building. You get a guy that's got a wide network to be able to hire great assistants. Kevin had a lot of good assistants that were in his network that he was able to bring in here into Cleveland, and I think that really helped him. I think that'll help Todd. That's a big reason why you hire a head coach. But I think he's also got that leadership ability because he has been a head coach before. He's been an offensive coordinator a bunch of places, but he's still that creative offensive mind to be able to push this offense in the right direction, develop a young quarterback into a franchise guy. I think they got the guy. They got the guy they wanted. They got the right guy for this job.
Hoff, when you have a guy who's coming in, and we kind of talked about some of the priorities, but to me, we said quarterback plan, wide receiver plan, offensive line plan, but then the culture plan. What do you want as a former player for a young team, a team that, we've talked about the need, accountability and that toughness? What is it that you want to hear or see from Todd Monkin in his opening presser about that specifically as a former player that would resonate with you and say, okay, this is good?
Well, to be honest, words don't really matter too much for me. I want to see the actions, right? But the message that I want Todd to relay to everybody is, I've been in these shoes before. I know what it takes to win in the AFC North. I'm going to be able to come in here and to be able to develop a modern, cutting-edge offense that utilizes our talent to the best of the ability that we have, puts them in the right positions to succeed. I'm going to motivate them. I'm going to hold them accountable. I'm going to be able to work hand in hand to develop a young quarterback, and I'm going to put together a staff that is going to be elite, that's going to continue the dominance that we've had on the defensive side of the football, and we're only going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 times better on the offensive side of the ball because that is directly under my oversight, and that is a big reason why they brought me here, so that I can develop that young quarterback and give us an offense that can win a Super Bowl, that can win AFC North titles, and make us consistently successful.
Hoff, what do you when Todd was here in 2019? What do you remember about him just from a personality standpoint, from a leadership standpoint? Obviously, you weren't around all the time, but you were bouncing in and out. I remember you'd be in here and we'd do shows and all of those things. And you talked to most people on that staff. What is kind of your personal recollection of Todd the person?
Well, I think he's a great person. I think one of his big skill sets is he is a people connector, right? It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year-old rookie or a 60-year-old grizzled offensive line coach, or maybe 70 if you're Bob Wiley. Like, you connect with him, right? You're going to have something in common. He loves the game of football. He loves talking about football, but I think he takes interest in all the players and all the people, the staff members that are around the building individually in them, right? And that's meaningful, right? When you're sitting in that role as a head coach, you need to get people to get out of their comfort zone, to work a little bit harder, work more together than they maybe are comfortable doing, because that's what being a team is all about. And it's your job to get those people to want to work and to play for you, because that relationship is important to them. And so you get the most out of them. They want to give more than just what their job description provides. And I think Todd is that type of guy. I'm sure you guys got a chance to get to know him. You got to see him around the building. You got to talk with him. He's great. He's engaging. He's interesting. He's funny. He's got a great personality. He's got a great football mind. And I think that resonates with an NFL locker room more than anything. Can you communicate? How do you find a way to relate? And how do you show me that you're putting me in a great position to succeed? And now it's on me. The accountability is on me to go get it done.
Hoff, I don't know if you heard when you were on hold earlier, but I know one thing that might make you consider coming back and playing for him is that Todd Monkin is going to bring George Warhop with him to be the new offensive line coach of the Cleveland Browns. I know that he was a coach that you loved. What does he bring to the table, and a guy that I know was a part of the Hoff being the Hoff?
Well, I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but I kind of knew that was coming for a little while, and I am so fired up about it because George is right there with Bill Callahan as one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. And I think the skill set that George has, right, that you want from an line coach. All right, they're going to be tough. They're going to be hardworking. They're going to be accountable. But more than that, and this is what Bill was really good at, Bill Callahan, is he can develop young guys. He can develop those backup players that I think a lot of offensive line coaches struggle with because they haven't put the procedures in place every day that you go out on the practice field, the drills, the consistency and the technique that he's demanding. That's how you develop offensive linemen. It's a million reps at a million different techniques. That's how you get better, right? It's not like some of these flashy positions where you just go out and you catch the football and you dance around in your underwear. No, like to be a good offensive lineman, you go 3 hours every day. You beat your head against the bag. You do 10,000 different drills exactly the same way. And then you do it so many times, not that you get it right, but that you can't get it wrong anymore and you're doing it in your sleep. That's the type of coach that George is. And what that gives you, like from a strategy standpoint, if I'm sitting there and I'm Andrew Berry, I'm going, this is amazing, right? Because offensive line coaches have the most impact on player development and taking a guy from where he is to where he is when he's on the field months, years later. Because like I said, it's not so much about talent. It's about the work ethic. It's about doing the technique, putting your body in the right position to be able to succeed. And George is able to do that. So Andrew's looking at it going, okay, these guys that maybe weren't my elite starters, maybe some of these guys I'm bringing in 4th, 5th rounders, he has the confidence in knowing that George is going to be able to turn those guys into reliable starters. Maybe he's not going to turn them into all pros, right? Because everybody has a ceiling. But I'll give you the example of Jason Pinkston, right? He was a mid-level guard from Pitt, not really highly touted coming out, but George worked with him, George developed him, and he became a very good starter in the NFL next to me at left guard before Joe Plutonio came in. And so that's the type of story that you hear with the guys that George has worked with throughout his career. He's able to develop those guys that maybe other coaches can't, and you can get great value out of those mid to late round picks, those guys that are cheaper in free agency because George is a developer.
Yeah, if you're just joining us and you're unfamiliar, George Warhop, according to Adam Schefter and the Hoff, is coming here to be the offensive line coach. And
Hoff's long advocated for him.
George was here from 2009 to 13, so it's his second tour of duty here as well. So there's familiarity in that sense.
No doubt. And look, as you look on his Wikipedia, are you on his Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Look at the first year that he started coaching the offensive line position in the National Football League.
Ramets?
1996. 1996.
1996.
He has
Is that
been coaching.
O-Pace? That might be O-Pace.
He's been coaching the offensive line in the league for 3 decades.
3 decades, yeah.
This is
probably
a
coincides,
professional veteran offensive line.
So,
coach.
Hoff, this leads me to the next question because we were thinking about like the checklist for Todd and how this all comes together. One of the first things that we said was, okay, you got to put a staff together, and we talked about how important that offensive line coach was. And one thing I said in the first hour of the program was when we had Bill, and we had really great talent on the offensive line in their prime at the time when we had Bill, but it felt like if there was an injury, Bill was an absolute savant of getting a guy who maybe didn't have the talent play up. And I'm not you clearly, but like I was thinking to myself, is this a position where if you are expertly coached, there's maybe as much as any position in the league, you can max out whatever talent you have if you are expertly coached. Is that fair?
No doubt. There's a wider range probably at the offensive line position of floor to ceiling than any other position because it's so skill-based. And the skills that you learn are not things that you roll out of your mother's womb being able to do. I mean, kick set backwards at full speed with your base 3 feet wide and then go block Myles Garrett coming off the edge 3.5 feet off the ground, turning the corner at a 4.5 40. Like, those are not things that are normal. Like catching the football, you do that since basically you can walk if you're an athlete, throwing the football, throwing things. I mean, my son's throwing ice cubes at his sisters since he was 3 years old. Like those are normal things that you learn. Running forward, we all do that at some point if we can run. Playing on the offensive line, I don't see many people going out kick setting or duck walking or gorilla walking or whatever you want to call it, because it's just unnatural things. And so you got to take a guy who's a good athlete, big, powerful, and strong, and you got to teach him these skills. And if you can do those skills, you can play a long time. That's why there's a lot of old offensive linemen in the NFL that are playing a lot longer than they can barely walk. Because if you can get in a position and you can use your brain, you can get your body in between them, and you can win with biomechanics. And that's the thing that George teaches you how to do.
Huff, do you think, we see George coming from that staff? Do you think one of the things, maybe we take a look at here is the Ravens staff from last year? These are guys that he enjoyed coaching with for multiple seasons, and I wonder how many of them, with Harbaugh being out, how many of them could be on their way here. Warhop was his O-line coach, for example, and he just it makes sense to me that perhaps there could be more people from that staff on their way here. And is that important, that kind of continuity and familiarity?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and that's one of the things I mentioned when I posted a video this week, just talking about the things that make me nervous about a young head coach. It's great. The young guys, I think they're on the cutting edge of techniques, philosophies, and they can push your scheme forward, which is great. Like, that's important, of course. But it's where is their network? How many guys have they worked with that they know that they can pick up the phone and say, hey, come to Cleveland with me? And it's not a cold call, because the unfortunate situation we're in is it's not the most desirable open position. Now, granted, for guys that don't have a job, maybe they'll be willing to introduce themselves to Todd and work together, but it's an old boys system. You want to know the guy that you're going to work with. You're going to want to trust him. You're going to want to know how he runs his meetings, how he runs his program, what his expectations are. And so you want to generally work for somebody that that you're willing to trust this period of your life to him, to be able to look at your wife in the eye and say, hey, honey, we're moving to Cleveland, and know that it's going to be something that's going to be around for a while, and you're not going to have to tell her 9, 10, 2 years from now, oh, honey, by the way, we got to move again because we got fired because I trusted this guy. I didn't really know him. And, we all got fired because he wasn't very good. So having that familiarity and having those tentacles throughout the league, like a guy like Todd Monkin has, is a huge, huge benefit when you hire him as a head coach, because when he picks up the phone and a guy like George Warhop is available, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the league, George says on day one, yep, I'll be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just real quickly, some names there. Willie Taggart was the assistant head coach and the running back coach all 3 years that Monken was the offensive coordinator. T. Martin, Tennessee legend, was the quarterback coach there.
Real quickly, Taggart was former head coach at USF and then Oregon and Florida State. He was in that college world, and then T. Martin was the national championship quarterback at Tennessee.
Yep. Greg Lewis, the former Eagles wide receiver, has been their wide receivers coach. The run game coordinator is a guy named Travis Switzer, and the assistant offensive line coach Travell Wharton, who I think played for the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be.
Does that sound right, Hoff?
Yep.
Yeah, played for the Panthers. So those are
Panthers, a little bit Commanders at the end, but yeah, great player. And I don't know him personally, but I'm sure if he's learning from George, he's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's the offensive staff that he had, and then they also had an offensive assistant coach named Danny Breyer. So T. Martin, Tennessee, feels like a Tennessee connection would make a lot of sense here, obviously, but we'll see how many of those guys. He's already pulled one of them, obviously that being George Warhop.
Hoff, in terms of what you think, one of the other things we kind of were talking about is like, all right, what are the Todd Monkin Cleveland Browns? And one thing that's I think really cool about him is, what he did at Georgia with that talent was very different than what he did offensively with Lamar. I think Todd's pretty malleable. I think he can build an offense around whatever your skill set is. But in terms of the identity, what do you – I guess I'll try to get you to get inside his head. What do you think the Todd Monkin Cleveland Browns will be all about? What will be their ethos? And then beyond that, what do you hope it is?
Well, I think the great thing is when you get a guy who's an experienced coordinator, he's been around, he's done a lot of different stuff, it gives him the ability to look at his players and say, okay, this is the scheme that I think that they're going to run the best. So you can move and mold your scheme to the players that you have. Now, you're not going to want to change year in and year out, and you're going to have your base fundamentals and your philosophy, but it gives you great flexibility where you bring in a guy that maybe is kind of new. He just kind of knows what he's doing, and he knows what he has done recently, which is, he's only been around for a short period of time. So he's going to kind of do that and kind of try to fit the players into that mold, which sometimes it works, but sometimes it's a little bit tough. But I think with Todd, he is a pass-first guy, but I don't think he's reckless about it. I think you guys will remember that when he was in Cleveland, he liked to throw the football. He was comfortable throwing on first down and being aggressive. But I think that's kind of where the NFL is today, to be honest. But he gives you multiplicity in your different schemes, like I said, with that background. But he likes to change formations, different personnel groupings. He's going to add a lot of motion and eye disguise and window dressing and try to make it hard on a defense. What his philosophy is, he wants to put the defense on their heels, and then he wants to get into personnel groupings and shifts and formations to know where the windows and the holes in that defense are going to be, because typically when a defense sees a lot of shifts in motion, they get basic, right? Because they're just trying to communicate, get lined up right so every gap is covered. And when you can do that to a defense, you get them on their heels, now you know basically what their checks are. So if you put a weird personnel grouping in there, let's just say, and you have a weird formation and a shift, if they're not exactly sure what you're doing, or you're doing something that maybe they haven't seen or game planned for recently, they check to some basic stuff. And a lot of times those checks are consistent throughout the league and throughout the year. So on offense, from watching film, you kind of know what defense they're going to be in that situation when you call that play and you got that shift motion personnel grouping. And then the beauty is like, all right, well, I can now teach my players, I can go through the walkthrough and then practice that, hey, you still have to be honest, but we think they're going to check and do this when we are in this play this week. And here's the hole. So I want you to look here first. Then if that's not open, they're taking that away. Boom, now you've got your progression. But it gives you a jump and a head start and a one step ahead of where that defense is before the ball gets snapped.
And he always, Patrick Ricard was a guy that obviously was there before Todd Monkin became the offensive coordinator, but found a way to use him. We got Aiden Huntington running around in some of those formations, so former defensive lineman, maybe you see something there. But this is one of those things that, we're not going to be able to really feel it until you see it. As you said, you're not about words, you're all about that action, Hoff. Hopefully we will get there. And one thing from an action standpoint I do want to bring up, because, the Hoff Beef was a hit for me at the holiday season in terms of all the people I've gifted it to. I have people losing their minds, salivating over the deliciousness of the Hoff's Wagyu, the beef sticks, now the beef jerky. And I know you just launched a beef jerky subscription club, which I am a member of, proud member of.
Yeah, baby.
What can you tell the people about that? And I know that the beef stick club is coming soon. And let me tell you something. When I ate my last apple cheddar beef stick, I wept. I did. I wept. A tear came to my eye.
That's like the best line in the Bible. Jesus wept. Only we're going to change it to the Hoffs Beef Bible is the wept.
I wept.
I
saved it for like 2 weeks. Like when I remember when the show 24, I was a big 24 guy when it was going to end. Like I didn't want to watch the last episode because like once I watched that episode, like I couldn't watch it again.
That's it.
Now the good news is I can reorder the Hoff Beef Sticks and I will. But I let that last one sit there. I had to find the perfect moment for it. Reminded me of some things I did in college.
That happens with us too. It's so funny. Like there is such a limited supply in my mind that I'm like, man, I don't want to eat that tenderloin because I know Annie's going to want it for Christmas. But then I'm like, well, I got the cow. It's like, why am I saving it
you
so
have
long?
access.
I can go get more.
Yeah,
exactly. But no, we're really excited about this beef jerky subscription program, and it's something that people have been just bugging me about because it's really popular, obviously, right? Like it's great going online, being able to order shipped to your house, but like for people that love beef, they love super high quality, nutritious beef that's farm to table raised. They know where it's coming from. That they just don't want to think about it. They just want to show up so they can throw it in their car and just eat it. Just let that beef melt in their mouth with delicious teriyaki and peppered jerky and the ass kicker, which is one of my favorites. So we're like, all right, we just got to figure this out. There's some back end nerd stuff that needs to go on the website to be able to make it happen. But we finally figured it out, and it's cool because we offer 3, 6, 9 packs. You can get quarterly, you can get it monthly. But if you don't know exactly what packs you want, we got some different flavor mixes.
Oh, baby.
We'll send you just varieties of flavors that hit your palate. So MVP classics. If you're a heat guy, go with the heat seekers. So it gives you that beauty of offloading the decisions. Like I just know that I want it, and I know it's going to be good, but I don't want to think
about
all
them all.
That other stuff.
Is my advice.
Like, when I go to Z's house for dinner. Yeah, I go to Z's house for dinner. I'm like, I make decisions all day long. I don't want to do it. I know you're going to do something amazing. Just cook for me and let's go break some bread. Let's go drink some Pinot and have a heck of a good time so I can worry about the laughs.
Yeah, baby.
Well, you are the Hoff, and you have a gold jacket. How does it sit with you that Bill Belichick isn't going on in the first ballot?
I am. I got to say, I'm a little disappointed. I understand that the Hall of Fame, unfortunately, it's typically in sports, it's run by the media, and it's the last ditch opportunity for those members sometimes to take a shot and kind of like a slap on the wrist at the guys that they didn't like or they felt they didn't do something the right way. You think back to T.O. and how long he had to wait to get in the Hall of Fame. Warren Sapp, great player, not a good human being. And supposedly these Hall of Fames, they don't take any of that into account, but obviously they do. Bill Belichick's the most successful NFL coach in history. And for him to not get in the first ballot, it clearly is a reflection on the fact that everybody hated him, including a lot of his coaches that work for him. The media hated working with him. And it's the cheating scandals that came about from it that they're saying, hey, we're going to ding you one more time, which I don't always like that. To be honest, even if you took the Super Bowls he won when he was cheating and he got caught for it and you threw him away, he's still a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Yeah, and it seems more and more. There's a lot of polling behind this. The thing I hate about it, Hoff, and I know how much it means to you. I hate that this is going to kind of be a cloud over the enshrinement this summer. I hate that it's going to be a cloud over the new class that goes in because they're going to be asked about it, right?
Yep.
And so I hate that because it is such a special, pristine accomplishment. It's the ultimate accomplishment,
yes.
and to have this overshadow it is, I think it sucks for Bill, whatever people think of him. It sucks for him that he's not a first ballot. Obviously, he should be. But then beyond that, Hoff, like for the guys going in now, this is going to be all anyone's talking about.
I totally agree, and I think two things should happen with the Hall of Fame. One, I think they should be very clear in the voting bylaws of, do we take into account any things that happen, after their playing career? Like I think about baseball and the steroid scandal and stuff. Like, hey, those guys never got caught at the time. Yeah, we know they were using steroids, but that's the game of baseball at the time. So now we're going to ding them for it. That didn't make sense to me ever. So I think the same thing with like the cheating scandals and stuff. It's like, we need to be very clear in our bylaws. Like, does Tom Brady now have to wait to be a second ballot because he was, guilty of Deflategate? Or are those things handled judiciously through the suspensions and the time that's served, like while they're playing the game? And then when we're voting for the Hall of Fame, it's purely about your resume as a Hall of Famer on the field or coaching, and we're not taking into account any personal gripes, any other off-the-field things or anything besides that. Or are we going to change it and say, you know what, we're going to take into account the total human being. We're going to take into account all the possible things that have happened throughout his career. And that's going to be a part of it. And I think the other thing they need to do is it'd be nice if the voters had to say, or they had to publicly release, like, who voted for who.
Yes.
Because the Bill Polian thing was just bananas to me. Like, he said, oh, I can't remember if I voted for Bill Belichick or not. It's like, really? Like, I think that's probably something you would remember that just happened recently.
That sounds like a fib.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Hoff. What's your temp up there?
I think today is our warm front. It's like 6 degrees right now, and
nice.
The cows are rejoicing because they could actually remove their tongues from being frozen to the hay pile right now.
What's going on in the spring? Does that spring keep the same temp even in these cold temps, or has the coldness overwhelmed even your great spring?
If I had to warm up on a day like today at the farm and I couldn't get inside, I would jump in the spring because it is amazing. That thing pumps out 5 gallons every 2 seconds. We tested. We put a 5-gallon pail under there. So 2.5 gallons a second is just bubbling right up out of the straight of the driftless hills of Wisconsin and filling that giant spring pond. All that water is filled up and goes into the river every single day, 24 hours. It's amazing. So it's always like 48 degrees.
That's amazing.
Which is
That's
brisk
great.
when it's warm, but that would feel warm on a daily basis. By the way, Hoff, I have to share this with you. My dad is obviously listening to the program. Shout out, not Pedro. He said when he finished his last bite of the flat iron, he didn't weep. He belched, but it was a belch of joy.
That is so Pedro.
Oh, this is
so
beauty.
Pedro.
We should write a book. That's poetic. I love it.
It's one way of putting it. All right, Hoff.
All right, love you, brother.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Love you too. Take care. Oh.
Mr. Siciliano going to join us coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The new Rumpke Recycling Resource Center helps feed the circular economy by supplying Ohio companies and others in the Midwest with the material they need to put what you place in your bins to good use. To learn more about the facility and how you can recycle more, visit rumpke.com today. Time to head out on the Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. Speaking of tea, likely pushing back from a nice iced tea while sucking down a scampi salad at Toscana in Brentwood is the great Mr. Siciliano. I'm glad we can pull you away from it. How are you, buddy?
He's been rubbing it in lately. Pictures, videos of the sun.
Of course he has.
And he's like, I'm sorry, I feel like maybe this is rubbing it in to send it.
No,
but he already sent it.
No.
How is
wait
that?
a minute. This is
How is
hi,
that
boys.
salad at Toscana? Is it good?
I just had a lunch at home, made a salad for myself. I got a show in 45 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
So, come on, this is a work day. And the only reason I sent Nathan a picture of the beach is because he had sent me a picture of the snowdrift on the patio.
And I feel like those are very different.
And for the record, as you know, Nathan can back this up. As soon as I sent it, I went, wow, actually that kind of – I'm a jerk. I didn't mean it that way, but maybe I do. And this would be the first time ever in our long friendship that I ever actually sent something like that to you to be
true.
Like, hey, look at this, buddy.
It's true. Well, we are in the midst of one of the worst winters on record.
Yep.
For this region, so I think
Yep.
this is the
Smack
time
dab
to
in the
do
middle
it.
of it.
Yeah, as you like to say, that we want to come kick Asa while you're at it.
Hey, I'm going to be in it for 3 weeks in Connecticut.
good
to
for
the
you.
Olympics,
Bully
where
you.
it's 8 degrees right now, so I am ready. I am ready for the snow.
The gold zone with the orange jacket. All right, some news. Obviously, what do you make of Todd Monkin, the 19th head coach of your Cleveland Browns?
Let me put it this way. Just open with this. He is a damn good coach.
Yep.
And I understand, and I've been listening to the show, and I just heard the Hoff. I understand that the initial reaction might be, what? Huh? I get that. I totally get that. I could also point out that I have heard from assistant coaches from multiple teams today, unsolicited, saying how good of a coach he is to me. I have heard from an AFC North assistant coach who said, I wish he was out of the division. So he is a good coach. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had Tyler Huntley, and in the Bears game, and what was it, the Packers game, they scored 71 points without Lamar Jackson and with Snoop Huntley. This guy can coach. You guys know Nathan. You know him. I don't know Todd at all, but I can tell you that the reaction around the league is, hey, they have a darn good coach. Now, what happens on the defensive side of the ball, that remains to be seen. And you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But he's a coach. He's a very good coach. And I think that is a huge plus.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you like when you ask a direct question getting a direct answer?
Yeah.
Then you're going to like
heard
him.
You guys say that.
Yeah. I mean, he was in here all the time in 2019. He's a really good dude. He's big on accountability. He's big on you ask a question, you get an answer. You might not always like it, but he's going to tell you the truth. I just saw this from Torrey Smith. Might be unpopular in Baltimore, but from the moment. But I watched him lead meetings one day. He communicates like a head coach. He does. That's what he like. He carried himself that way here in a really brutal situation in 2019.
Right, and I'll add this as well. I was talking to a Ravens player today who said he loved him, just flat out loved him. So there's that. They got a respected coach, and the staff means so much. The Hoff just said that too. The staff means so much. I'm the Nate Shieldhouse. You guys, we have talked about that.
Yep.
Obviously, I got a lot of friends with the Rams. I worked there for 14 years. I don't know Nate because he was gone already kind of when I got there. We overlapped one training camp and our paths never crossed. But they love him there. They were pushing for him, but they also conceded, as I told you guys last week, hey, he may not be ready. Just like Grant Yudinsky. The Jacksonville people love him, but they also shrug their shoulders and go, don't know if he's ready. You know that Todd Monkin is ready. You know that he could lead a room. You know that he can coach. Go back to that Georgia offense. Yeah, he had a lot of pieces. He had George Pickens, and he had James Cook and Zamir White. He had talent on that team. Tyson Campbell, by the way, was on that team on the other side of the ball. He's had a lot of talent. But when handed some of the mess the Ravens have had when Lamar Jackson was not at his best or maybe not playing, I think the results say a lot.
Certainly, and I think that's what the experience. He's been a coach for 37 years at the college and NFL levels. I think that's a big part of it, and I always feel better about a guy who understands our division and what it takes to win in our division. And
he certainly knows that.
Certainly that was time here in 2019, but the last 3 years being with the Baltimore Ravens and understanding their operation, while it will be different now with Harbaugh out, I think that's always a good thing. And clearly he's somebody that made an impression when he was here in 2019 under what were, challenging circumstances, to be fair, and now is, slated to be the next head coach.
I understand the fan perspective. And I understand that some fans may go, what? They wanted the young, hotshot offensive mind. They tried that last time, and Kevin was a very good head coach, and the first 4 years were very good. Obviously, then it went sideways, and we could dissect what happened the last 2 years at another time. But clearly, the team did not win enough games the last 2 years, and we know now the result. This is going in the other direction, which is an experienced veteran head coach. I don't know if it's fair to call him a disciplinarian, but he is no nonsense. I'll tell you that. You guys know that, and I've heard that from multiple other people as well. I think people need to give it time. Give it time, see how it goes. Remember this as well. John Harbaugh wanted Todd Monkin to be the guy to develop Jackson Dart. Okay? The Giants were waiting on this process.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They wanted to figure out, are you coaching the Browns or are you coming with us? Because if he didn't go to Berea, he was going to East Rutherford to work with Jackson Dart. Because the big selling point of the Giants, right, we're all told, it's Jackson Dart. They got their quarterback. That's why you want that job. That's why John Harbaugh chose the Giants. Well, he chose Todd Monkin. He was going to choose Todd Monkin to be the guy to develop Jackson Dart. That should mean something.
Yeah, and the other thing, just from a imprints on an organization standpoint, and you think about a pretty big reshuffle we need on offense, his fingerprints are going to be all over this, Andrew. All over it. Every position. Offensive line has to be remade. Weapons need to be remade. Yep. Who knows what happens at quarterback? There's a lot that has to be considered here.
There is a makeover on the offensive line. You need to add skill position guys, clearly. Love what you added last year. Love in the Quinshon, the Harold Fannin piece, Isaiah Bond. I think we've seen it. There have been glimpses where it is there. You just need to develop it. You got to get a guy to get those guys the football consistently. Can it be Shedeur? You would have to think that the Shedeur conversation was a big part of the multiple interviews that Todd Monkin had to get this job. Andrew Berry's left the door open that Shedeur could be the guy, but they have to do their due diligence and figure out what else is out there. This is not for fans who are saying, hey, let's go quarterback. There is no quarterback at 6. There is not going to be a quarterback in all likelihood at 24. There's a reason Aaron Rodgers may come back to the Steelers because there's no obvious quarterback answer for them. 3 picks in front of us at 21. So this might be a one-quarterback draft, at least on Thursday night. Fans need to get ready for that.
Yep.
There is no obvious answer other than Mendoza.
Right, and that sets up for the Browns to be able to get, I think, a very good wide receiver at pick 6 should they be so inclined, and we all think they will be.
Or offensive lineman at pick 6.
I want weapons. I know.
Oh, I heard you.
Yeah. You know. We were talking earlier as well, though, about Todd. I think that, when you come in and you take this job, turning 60, first time being a head coach, you've been very successful on offense. I think he's going to have a lot of input in the personnel situation, and I think we're going to really see his influence in this draft, don't you?
You would have to think so. You always want the head coach to have a certain level of influence. You have to tell the front office in any functioning organization, here are the players I want, here are the players that I think fit our system the best. Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
And you've been around these things a long time. I would imagine, especially as you've waited as long as Todd has, that he has a lock stock list of, I want this. These are my 5 coordinators. These are my 5. We know who the offensive line coach is going to be with Hop coming back, but these are my 5 receiver guys. He's got all of that stuff in spades. He's been in the league forever. He's got those lists, and I would imagine from that perspective, this will come together pretty quickly on the offensive side, don't you think?
You would have to think so. He's always had a physical run game. He always uses his tight ends well. He's always been multiple in his personnel. He's not locked into one thing. He did really like to use Lamar's legs. Obviously, everyone has who's called plays for Lamar since he broke in as the 32nd overall pick in 2018. mean, I think that was maybe part of the issue down the stretch there as well. I mean, there are a lot of people that would say that Lamar didn't really want to run much the last 2 years. One of the reasons the whole thing went sideways, but you have Derrick Henry as well. You don't need to keep your quarterback running the football constantly when you have a Hall of Fame running back there. But he is good at taking what you have and making chicken salad. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. He's been, yes, indeed. And listen, this is a team where we talked about where we need to be significantly better on offense. You had mentioned at the beginning and talked about a good football coach. I know you are very well connected around this league. You've heard from a lot of people today at various levels, coaches and above, about Todd, and I think that the perception in the league of this move for the Browns is maybe a little bit different than the perception maybe outside and around. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. You said it quite well. Look, there are people that might be scratching their head going, hey, I would still go with the young guy. But in terms of the coach they're getting, no, everybody thinks Todd Monkin is a darn good head coach and that this is a good hire. Nate Scheelhaase and Grant Udinski are not head coaches in this cycle. At least I don't think they are going to be. It does not appear to be that way. Udinski's already gotten his little promotion or whatever it is. He's staying at Jacksonville. He's probably head coach next year. Nate Scheelhaase, I don't know what's going to shake out in terms of a promotion or a title change with the Rams, but he's coming back to the Rams. I think this situation would be different. Look, if Udinski was named head coach of the Bills and Scheelhaase was named head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and then there'd be the constant comparison, obviously, between Monken and those guys. That's not going to happen this year. So if those guys were ready, there are 10 openings. Those guys would have gotten a job if they were ready. Now, I think Nate, he's the one I'm closest to, is going to be a head coach one day.
Yep.
I think he's probably going to be a good head coach one day. But that day is not today. The Browns went long down the road with him. That was an 8-hour interview on Monday, from what I understand. And they chose to go in this direction.
The story in the NFL today is Bill Belichick missing the Hall of Fame. You worked for the league, obviously, at the network and have been around the NFL for a very, very long time. What do you make of this?
I put it this – so if you take Belichick's career post-scandal, and I'm going to include Deflategate, although people dismiss it, but from the day that the punishment was handed out for Deflategate and Brady missed the first 4 games of the subsequent season, Bill Belichick has 100 career victories, 3 trips to the Super Bowl, and 2 Lombardi trophies.
Yep.
That career, quote-unquote, post-scandal, as it is, merits being in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
If you just take him from that day forward, he is a Hall of Famer and maybe even first ballot. More career wins from that day forward than Bill Walsh in his career, if you want to put it in that context. Bill Walsh has, well, maybe not with the postseason. Bill's probably a couple of past him when you consider the postseason wins as well. But it's Bill Walsh's career post-scandal. That's a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
I also understand when people go, he cheated. He got caught cheating twice. Period. He did. But he's a Hall of Famer, and he should be in on his first ballot.
100%. Eddie Guerrero would say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
So would NASCAR. It's just one of those things. I hate that it's going to kind of be a cloud over the process this year, buddy. Like when that class goes in.
Of course
and
it
then
is.
The enshrinement this summer, like it's all anyone's going to be asked. And I hate that for those guys who go in because that shouldn't be something that they have to deal with, but they're going to.
We're also denied the glory
2 minutes.
Ian Kraft going in the same year.
Yes. Within there would be some awkwardness, but at the same time, like you can't tell the story of the NFL without the two of them, and so I think that is certainly fine. I think anybody who voted against them should be out. That's my opinion. Take them out. Give some new people votes. Like for example, if there's anybody who didn't put you on their ballot for the orange jacket, gone, out.
I don't know that it came to a ballot. I think it might have been, hey, you made a nice donation the last couple of years.
Boo. Boo. So self-deprecating. Outrageous.
Oh, my God. From that beach view in Malibu, Mr. Siciliano.
Yeah.
When I say nice donation, I mean, like, would you like to round up on the order of your on your order of your hooded sweatshirt? Would you like to round up and give it to the students? Yes.
Make us feel good. What's your temp out there, brother? Give me your temp today. Where are you at?
1 minute.
To get a cup of coffee this morning in 49 degrees, I want you to know. It
that's
is now
Canada
up to
Goose
60.
weather for you.
Tough.
It's now up to 60.
It's cold.
But it was
It's cold for
49
you.
and cloudy this morning.
That's
All
like
right.
55.
Get your Uggs
more
and your
than
puffer
us.
jacket ready, buddy. Good talking to you as always, my friend.
Keep smiles on your faces, gentlemen.
That's all we do.
There he goes.
Okay.
Mr. Siciliano joining us via the Twisted Tea
He's so proud
hotline
of
presented by Twisted Tea,
He's
Hard Iced
laughing
Tea,
himself
official
off the air.
sponsor of your Cleveland Browns.
Unbelievable.
Keep it Twisted Cleveland. Keep it locked right here on ESPN ESPN Cleveland, more local coverage. Todd Monkin, your new head coach of your Cleveland Browns. That was Cleveland Browns Daily. We're always presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Please bet responsibly on 850 ESPN Cleveland.